6 feet apart with Christy
and Casey.
You have stepped into our bubble. Alright, so let's get into today's topic.
What are we talking about today?
What are we talking about? You go for it.
So I guess for our episode 1.5,
1.5.
We want to address how we grew up seeing the other, as in how I grew up seeing, black people in America, and how Christy grew up seeing Jews in America, kind of our experiences with that, and how it's changed, and kind of see where that conversation takes us.
Yeah.
Because, I think just sometimes with different topics, reflect on how much my thoughts and opinions have changed about things. And it's interesting to see where you came from, how you got where you are.
So, for sure. So we can do, there is kind of like an initial question on that subject, and it really is like, what did you know or learn about, black culture growing up, and then, of course, vice versa with Jewish culture with me.
Okay. Should I go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I feel like there's a lot I can say, and obviously growing up means, a long span of time. So, I guess the first thing just to start is I grew up in a town in New Jersey with very few black people. And it's so interesting because I now live in New Orleans, and I've lived here for a while, and on one hand, I think of my high school as very white, and it's not even high school before that, kindergarten, middle school. And then on the other hand, then if I'm flipping through my yearbook, or I really think about it, I'm like, we weren't really that white, we just weren't black.
Gotcha.
So I grew up with a lot of other Asian kids, a lot of, kids from the Middle East, like Indians, Muslims.
So diversity, just not like black.
Just
gotcha.
not black culture at all. There were, I think in my grade, and I went to a big public school, so maybe there were about 500 students in my graduating class.
Okay.
If I went to high school, don't quote me on that. That seems like
a
ballpark number. I think there might have been 3 black kids in my grade. Yeah.
So not in the whole school, but just in your
grade,
particular grade.
That's so multiply that times 4.
Gotcha. Yeah. Still not that
in the
much.
School, not many. And so they obviously stood out. Their names were like Black Chris, Black Jen. That's what everyone.
That's
called
how they
them.
were.
And so on one hand, it's like they stood out in a way. They weren't necessarily stood out compared to, like I said, we had a lot of people with darker skin, but they still stood out as black. And on the other hand, I think because there were so few, there wasn't really black culture.
Right.
So they really they blended in that sense, in that they didn't really, where I think of our Puerto Rican and Hispanic population was so much bigger, they really kind of formed their own cliques and groups in the school, and there really seemed to be more of a culture there. So I can kind of make more cultural stereotypes about the Puerto Rican girls. There are 3 black students in my grade. I don't even think they were really friendly with each other. They were kind of different people. So I didn't really think, black culture was even a thing, and it's just so funny because growing up in the 90s, I think that's still very big on, I don't see color and all of that, and I was raised to believe that, and it made sense to me, and I probably at one time would have thought anyone describing something black people do or black culture, I would have probably thought that was pretty offensive.
Right.
So. Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about it.
So that's okay. So that's really interesting at the idea, because so today, let's just say if somebody says, the notion of I don't see color, right? Of course,
so
that's
stupid.
gonna be
I'm
that is the
unless
most
I'm
ridiculous
are you
thing,
literally blind?
Right.
I don't want to be I want to be sensitive in case you're seeing impaired.
Right.
But otherwise, it makes no sense
to say that.
Yeah, I don't get it anymore.
But now it makes me think about you saying that that's how you were raised, with the notion of I don't see color. And so, and you thinking that that was like, could have been offensive to say this black person or something like that. Or,
Right.
you know,
To say that anything was something that, like, you know, black people did, like, I think to, like, talk about black hairstyles, like, I would think, like, oh, that's offensive to say that black people have
have
a
to
certain type
separate,
of
yeah.
hair or something.
Yeah.
But it's, like, I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
And we definitely, like, I was really good friends with, like, one of the three
Mm-hmm.
black kids in my grade. And yeah, we would like call, and her name was Jen, so like so many white girls in my high school had the name Jen,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. Super common name in like the, 90s, 80s, 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And like we would call her Black Jen, but then we'd be like, you're so white. Which is like so inappropriate.
Yeah.
Like, I feel terrible saying this, but it's true. Like, I
Yeah.
think people, and it's, all my friends obviously are very like liberal or from like a liberal area, and I just think they wouldn't admit this, or even maybe they like blocked it out of their memory.
Yeah.
I'm sure she hasn't blocked it out of her memory. And she's like, I mean, once she left our town, she got very into like black culture, and,
Right.
which makes a lot of sense. And now I'm like, we were terrible. I mean, we didn't,
But you didn't know.
we didn't
and
know,
that,
yeah.
and that kind of brings it up. Like, for instance, okay, so if I talk on my end of it, as far as Jewish culture, I didn't really know a lot at all, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. And I'm sure my elementary school was so mixed, okay? I don't doubt at all that, I had Jewish kids
Yeah,
in
because
school
they were
with
Jews in
me.
New Orleans.
Of course, yeah. But I didn't know it, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't
So
have
interesting.
any type of, like, education on it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward, I go to middle school.
Yeah.
And middle school, once again, I'm like I was the only black girl in my class. I was about one of the same, like maybe 12, 13 black students in the whole school.
Yeah.
Again, no doubt that I had Jewish kids in school with
Everyone
me.
was white. Yeah.
Everyone else was
Yeah.
white, yeah.
There
A
were
few,
Jews there.
like, maybe some, like, Hispanic, maybe two.
Yeah.
But I think that the two that we had were, like, adopted by white families, so
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
was in this different culture than us. But again, it's so curious to me that I never learned anything about it. Like,
Yeah.
like there was no separation. And so I guess on the same end, there was no separation of me from
Right.
any of these kids. It was just all,
Right.
everybody's white, and then that's
Yeah.
it. It wasn't until my brother, he had some friends who were Jewish, and so he started
Right.
trying to teach me a little bit about it. But learned absolutely nothing.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Especially because, for a city in the South, New Orleans does have Jews. Now, if you live somewhere that had, I'm like pretty aware of, where Jews are. If you live somewhere with no Jews, I'd be like, well, that makes sense.
Right.
There might have not been any Jews
Right.
in your class. We're a
Right.
pretty small percentage. But yeah, that's interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, the difference is, you can't really tell who's Jewish. So
Right.
obviously Jews kind of just like hide it, blend in.
Right.
Whereas for me to be like, I obviously could see that there are black people
Yeah.
in my school, so it's a little different. But yeah, just in terms of like culturally, just everyone
Exactly.
seeming the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think, I don't even know. I've lived in New Orleans for so long now. How many years? 15 plus. I can't keep track. And I just don't really fully know what like the Jewish experience growing up here would be. From what my husband was born and raised here, he's not Jewish, but he went to school with Jews, and he thinks Jews are all like so assimilated because that was his experience
Right.
here, and like
Right.
don't really celebrate the holidays. And I was like, well, where I'm from, Jews
Yeah.
do celebrate all their
Yeah.
holidays like pretty seriously. So yeah, and I don't know. I couldn't speak on if that bothers Jews that are raised in like places
Right.
with a smaller Jewish population, or that they just want to kind of fit in and
Yeah.
just be white, and not even like Christian people would assume they're Christian.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, that's
So how much
interesting.
how much do you believe you know now about the culture?
Yeah, actually, so I was about to say something, I think, because you talked about learning about, you talk about not really learning about anything. So I guess I should speak on that a bit, because I was kind of speaking about, you know, just like my peers. And so we, I feel like this could be a whole topic, just with education and U.S. history.
Yeah.
We learned, I feel like the North is pretty obsessed with learning about, like, the Civil War and civil rights and all of that. So I feel like every single year we spent a good amount of time, I guess, like, when you're little, you're just, like, in general class, but when you're older, like, English and history, a good amount of time, like, talking about the Civil War, talking about slavery, talking about civil rights and Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, and then going back to, you know, Civil War, talking about Harriet Tubman, and just, like, the same maybe 5 to 10, like, people and topics we just learned every single year.
Right.
And it did seem very important, and there was definitely, like, a rhetoric of, like, the South is terrible.
Right.
You know, like, we were morally better, we won. But I think that one of the biggest things I'd say I feel different from what I learned growing up and now is, like, we really, every year it was, like, taught that, like, this is all fixed. Always. Like, the civil rights movement was the end.
That was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I fully believed that as a child.
Yeah.
So that's just, like, crazy to me. I'm like, how did these teachers believe that? Like, I'm just so curious, because that's crazy to me. Like, Rosa Parks sat in that bus, and Martin Luther King did a few sentences, and bam, everything was fixed. I was, like, so happy. Like, I felt so good as a child. Like, this is all fixed. I think that's part of why I don't see color. Like, this is all fixed. The people in the South, they still, like, want segregated bathrooms and whatever. But, like, we fixed it, the North one. So in terms of education, I'd say, I mean, sometimes I hear about some of, like, the Southern education, like, they don't even learn, like, anything, like, at all. So I was like, we definitely, like, learned a lot, but we learned that it all ended in, like, the 60s. So that's just, like, crazy. So I guess we can kind of circle back to that.
Yeah. And let me just say this, as a black person growing up in the South, we didn't really learn about, you know, black history or anything like that much more, to be honest with you. You know, it really was, like, the same, like you said, the same kind of people. Maybe we had a few more.
Right. But you're, like, living in a world where you know there's still problems. So isn't that, like, doesn't everyone say, like, I don't know, as a kid, don't you, like, know? I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like,
well, no, yeah, you truly, you know, but, like, some of the people who had come before you, it's still the same thing. They tried to, you know, schools still tried to, in a way, cut it off at, you know, civil rights, and that civil rights somehow really did end, you know, in the 60s. So the problems that you think you have as a black person is not a civil rights thing. It's just like, you know, just I'm black, but, you know, we didn't really learn beyond that.
There's just so much beyond that. So, and then even in college, you know, I think we went a little further. So we went into, like, because I took a lot of, like, urban economics and stuff. We learned about, like, redlining in the 80s. But I think, actually, and I was about to say, I think there's always been a problem that we've never been able to, like, say that the problems that are happening right now.
Right.
But I think maybe that's changed now.
Right.
Like, I think for the first time, not everyone, most people are still in denial. I think for the first time, people are like, let's look at the problems now. So I think that's a start.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because in my high school and college education, I never felt like there was ever, like, let's talk about
what's happening currently.
Now.
Yeah.
I guess, like, it's seen as too political, probably.
And I see there are times now where I've seen a lot of people, like, colorize some of the pictures from the civil rights movement, or the start of the civil rights movement, let's say. And that's really big. And the idea that this is an ongoing thing, because the idea of looking at them in these, like, black and white photos makes it feel as if it was so far away, and that it really was a different era. And it's like,
no,
it's not.
No,
you know,
it wasn't. What, like, the first girl to go to, like, a desegregated school in New Orleans was, like, in 57 or something. The first person.
She's younger than, my
So
parents.
that's just the first person.
Correct.
Not everyone, yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's not
that's like
that
New
long
Orleans.
ago.
That's not. Yeah. So.
Right. Well, I think she was the first person in Louisiana, but which is New Orleans.
Yeah.
They were more progressive. And it's not that long ago.
Not at all.
I mean, and that's how I always felt. Although I'm feeling less now, but growing up, with Holocaust, I'm just like, to me, what's so crazy is like it's not that long ago.
No.
And now as I get older, I'm old now, so I'm
Yeah.
like, that's kind of a long time ago.
It feels
but when I
like,
was a kid, I was like, that was 25, 30 years ago. Which I was like, that's not that long ago. Like that's wild. So, I think people just don't realize how recent,
Yeah.
Our grandparents and stuff lived through World War. My grandparents lived through World War II.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People forget things very quickly, so which is scary. Talk about now.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about now? And then there's a Jews.
So to be honest with you, I feel as if, and I think this was one of the things of me wondering, like, needing somebody of another culture to help. Because a lot of things that I have learned have come from you, right? And it's come from, and I mean, I know you can, like, testify to this, that if there's something that I come across and I'm like, okay, how does this work? How does this happen? Is this offensive? Is this that? So you have really taught me a lot about Jewish culture. But otherwise, it's just been my own kind of like books here. I mean, we went to Germany, so going, trying to learn something while I was there. But
how about like from like just, I don't know if this is somewhere else in your outline, but just obviously there's so many Jews in like media, like
right.
movies and TV.
Right.
How about like stereotypes or like education or anything from that?
Right. And so the education probably on the wrong side, opposite side, is the whole, Jews, lots of money, wants to, control a lot, let's just say.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a Golden Girls watcher. And just the other day, one of the episodes came on where Dorothy and Sophia are like feeding like the people who are infirmed.
Yeah.
And Sophia is telling Dorothy, this lady in this apartment is such and such and such, so just tell her, her cat is great and Jews control the world. Like this is how you're going to get along with her, right? So as far as TV education, I'm sure it has been all stereotypical.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I know now Jewish people in the media and stuff like that, but
it's so wild to me that like the Jews control the world. Like, I get Jews do pretty well for themselves, but like clearly like white Christians, come on now.
Yeah.
It's like anyone that's like starting to like get close, they get upset. So.
Yeah.
That's funny. I don't like I'm trying to see like watching Jews on like TV and stuff. I mean, I feel like I usually think it's funny, but I don't know.
Like, what stereotypes do you see on television that are just like
about Jews? Or
yeah.
I don't know. I think it's usually pretty funny actually.
Right.
So
okay.
I don't think it's that bad. I think for me, let's circle back to this. I'll talk about living in New Orleans a
Okay.
bit. So,
okay.
So I don't know. The question, what do I think? How much I think I know now of Black culture? I don't know. I don't feel very comfortable answering it.
Go for it. I'm curious.
But for me it's obviously so different because I moved from somewhere with like barely any Black people to New Orleans, which is majority Black.
Right.
So it's hard to say like what I learned from living here versus just growing older and being part of like the current political climate and like all the activism now. But I think, I mean, my outlook is completely different. Obviously, this is really hard to like put into words. I mean, obviously it's the opposite now that I think that, like, before that, like, black culture wasn't a thing and everyone's, like, the same. I mean, I don't, you know, obviously now I see black culture everywhere. I mean, I live
Right.
in a majority black city, so, yeah, I see it, I appreciate it, I see how much, you know, in New Orleans, like, comes from black culture, or if not comes from black culture, has been changed often for the better because
Right.
of black culture.
Right.
And it's not like, yeah, it's not like a taboo thing that, like, you shouldn't be able to say, like, this is because of black people or something.
Right.
So, I'd say that first and foremost. I don't know, I guess I don't really, you know, you say you come to me when there's, like, something you read about Jews, which is so true, like, oh, is this correct, or is this offensive?
Right.
I mean,
Do I say this? Can I say
yeah,
this?
I mean, I guess I don't really do that to you
Yeah. Not as much. No.
as much.
Right.
Maybe sometimes.
Sorry, I had to do a plug-in there.
Yeah. I wish I could think of, like, good examples. I don't know. It's just,
Do you see things on, let me ask this, do you see things on TV that you can identify as stereotypes, or do you wonder if that is sometimes?
yeah, that's a good, maybe I should ask you, because I often feel like when I see black characters on TV, it does feel incorrect, and I wonder if that's just because I just know, like, New Orleans, and maybe people in New Orleans are just, you know, New Orleanians. But I've actually recently, you haven't watched Queen's Gambit, right?
I have not.
Okay, so, like, I really liked it.
Okay.
But I was watching it with and it's, like, with my husband, and it takes place, gosh, I wish I knew what era it was, like, in a while ago. Was it, like, 40s, 50s maybe?
Okay.
It's mostly, like, white characters, but it starts the girl's, like, in an orphanage, and she has, like, a little black friend, and then later she comes back, and, like, whatever, this little girl has, like, no deep, like, characterization, but she's, like, knows all. So, like, my husband goes, like, oh, it's the Magical Negro.
Right.
And I was like, excuse me? Like, well, I'm, like, really
Yeah.
bad with saying, so I'm like,
Yeah.
what did you just say? Excuse
Yeah.
me? Like, I thought he was being really inappropriate.
Yeah.
He's like, look it up. So I looked and I was like, oh, yeah, totally.
Totally, yeah.
There was not, like, every other character was so well developed on the show. I thought it was very good. But this one character, it was, like, the only black character in the show, and, like, just for no reason, she was, like,
She just
all
knew all
knowing,
the-
and then popped up and, like,
Yeah.
saved the day at the end, even though she hadn't been in, like, 8 episodes.
Yep.
I was like, what? So I didn't even, like, think it had to do with her being black. I was like, this is a weird character. But then
Yeah.
when Christopher told me to, like, read about, like, the Magical Negro, I was like,
Yeah,
okay.
he called it, yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. And I actually was rewatching some episodes of Key and Peele very recently, and they did an episode on the Magical Negro.
Really?
And it was like, you know, I mean, the guy was like a janitor, one of them, and then, you know, but
Yeah.
it's the whole thing of, and that's what's so funny, of not even knowing that you're catching these stereotypes, but you keep seeing them over and over, and so you don't even realize that that's what they're doing,
Yeah,
you know. That's really
totally.
interesting.
So, yeah, I think from my now experience being, you know, in New Orleans around way more black people, I feel like black people aren't represented correctly in the media at all. I mean, maybe I'm watching, like, things that are, like, you know, way too white and stuff.
Right.
But, like,
Right.
yeah, it still seems to be something that's, like, lacking a lot.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's funny. You know, my thing with Jews is that I always assume, and I guess because of being black, right, that I always assume that, you know, you're not being portrayed properly.
Yeah.
You know, so I always assume this has to be a stereotype somewhere. you
Yeah,
know.
there's just something, there are a lot of stereotypes of Jews in the media. There's obviously with Jewish culture that's more like, it's funny to us. And I think because that's just part of our culture, I was kind of, used to be less sensitive to other cultures, like, not, like, taking, like, insults and stereotypes. Like, well, you know, we make fun of each other all the time, but, like, now I realize, like, that's just a Jewish thing, like, that just is what it is, you know, and it doesn't mean that, like, you know, everyone should have to, like, be okay with that.
And I mean, black people make fun of
For
each
sure,
other all
yeah.
the time, you know,
Yeah.
but
And I think, obviously a lot of, if we're talking about Jews controlling everything, I mean, I think one thing that's very, like, unproportionately Jewish is, like, entertainment industry
Right.
for sure. So there are, like, a lot of Jews often, I think, behind the writing of this.
Right.
Whereas if there's some other setting where, like, I don't know, in the oil industry or something,
Right.
that, like, Jewish jokes were flying around, it'd probably be, like, way less appropriate.
right,
So,
right, yeah, yeah,
yeah, I think there are a
Yeah.
lot of Jews behind the jokes in Hollywood,
Right.
which is why they
which
were.
would make sense, yeah,
So.
okay, yeah, that's, I don't know, it's, so, not to get too far off of that, but I have a question about that, is how I said that I come to you,
Yeah.
right, for a lot of things, and so I wonder then, how necessary do we think it is, like the whole understanding of the other culture,
Yeah.
how necessary do we think it is to have a friend or have somebody of that culture in understanding it, like,
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty, I don't know if it's important, but I think that's probably one of the only real ways to really understand another culture is to, be more immersed in it. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily important or possible. I mean, you might live somewhere where there's not other people, so
Right.
obviously the baseline is just, like, to be, like, tolerant and accepting,
right,
like, and just,
Right.
like, understand that you might not understand or something. Like, that should be the baseline. So I'm not, like, saying, like, everyone needs to know about Jews or everyone needs to know about black people, but I definitely think if you live somewhere where there's, like, a population of this culture, it definitely should be more, it's more important, obviously.
so we should be fairly forgiving of people who don't get it, you think?
Yeah, so I used to, I remember people used to say before, the most recent past administration, when,
I like how you put that.
yeah, like, I would always hear people say, like, it's not, we don't need to, like, teach racists or teach people that are anti-Semitic and change, and, like, we just can't give them a platform. This is poor. And I was, up in my little, like, ideal world, and I was like, that's ridiculous. No, like, I don't want these people in my country, in my state, in my town. Like, no, we need to teach them. I'm like, I don't care about, like, what the government does. Like, I want everyone to be, like, a better person. And I really believed that for a while. And then recently, when I realized, I was like, that's, everyone who said, no, we just can't give them a platform. I'm like, that's what matters.
Right.
What was the original question? I was going somewhere with this.
What was the question? Oh, being forgiving of people.
Yeah. So I think...
But I do want to touch back.
Yeah, I don't know how I was
said,
connecting
too.
this. I was connecting this somehow. But yeah, I mean, I think... I'm forgiving. I don't expect anyone to know things about Jewish people or care about Jewish people or anything. I just think that, I think that's my point is, like, people that are, anti-Semitic or racist and stuff just can't be given a platform. I guess I'm not forgiving of those people per se, but I mean, some of it is just, like, their upbringing and their education, and I don't know. I guess I'm not.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you think?
Well, touching on what you said about, like, teaching people. So I think, like, for me, that is one of the biggest, like, I used to feel as if that was okay a while back.
Yeah.
But for me, that's, like, one of my biggest things as far as people wanting, and I mean when it comes down to people who are willfully ignorant, you know, like, not people who don't even realize they're ignorant to something, but people who are willfully ignorant, are willing to do, I don't want to say, like, racist specifically, but you know what I'm saying. People just don't really care. I don't really care about you, your culture, whatever. Those people, and especially a lot of people associated with the most recent Pence administration.
Yeah.
I have no desire to teach.
Yeah.
Right. Because at some point you think, when is the onus on the other person?
Yeah.
You know, why is it that the one who you want somebody should learn about
Yeah.
is the one that continues to carry the burden of teaching, right? Because
Yeah.
then we will never stop. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
when is it on somebody else to say, hey,
For sure.
let me learn?
Yeah.
You know?
I think I still have a desire to teach
Mhm.
people, especially if I just feel like they grew up in like a very sheltered environment. And I'd
Mhm.
be like, hey, come to a Passover Seder, you know?
Mhm.
But yeah, there's
Of which I still need to do.
I know, you still need to come to a
Yes.
Passover Seder.
Yes.
But there's obviously someone just like completely just ridiculous, and yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think I'd have to like try and, you know, calculate their intentions.
Mhm.
But I do think I think that is something I've noticed too, like, which makes sense. I've seen with, like, you know, Black Lives Matter, the movement being like, you know, it's not Black Americans' job to like educate you, which
Right.
I agree with. I mean, I
Right.
think that's right. Whereas I think Jews, though, very much like love to, like,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
like, let me push this on you, like, so
Okay.
I don't know. I have thought about how that's different before, though, so it's funny it just
Right.
got brought up.
Yeah.
Not that one's right.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
that either works.
Correct. Like that is the truth. You
Yeah.
know? I think that's the thing, is that
Yeah.
there is no evidence either way that
Yeah.
either one of them works.
Yeah, Jews are funny, though, because, like, when you think about other religions, they're way more, like, evangelical. So it makes sense.
Mhm.
Other religions, like, want to come show people because they want people to come into that
Right.
religion. Whereas
Right.
Jews are like, yeah, Jews do not want anyone else to be Jewish. They're, like,
Right.
very obsessed that they're, like, the Jews and no
Right.
one else is. But they do love, like, showing people their culture
Okay.
and stuff. I feel like they always want to be like, look how awesome this is, but you can't be part of it. Like,
Right.
there's some element of that.
So that, okay.
I don't know.
That leads me to this, just to interject on that, because I was watching, I think it was the World Channel, like PBS.
Yeah.
There was a documentary on Sammy Davis Jr.,
Yes.
who converted. And so, you know, in what you just said,
Mhm.
what is, for him, he was very, very proud of this.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm a Black Jewish man,
Yeah.
right? Like, that was his thing. So what is it that, or is that still a thing now, to where somebody converting, you're just like,
Yeah, so
you're not authentic?
for sure, and I think I'd love for you to, like, talk about this too on your end. So you can convert to Judaism, but it's, like, hard. It's funny because if you're born Jewish, like, you don't need to be religious. Like,
Right.
You know, you could be
Right.
an atheist Jew, and someone would look at my lineage and be like, you're Jewish. But to
Right.
convert, it's like you need to, like, really study and, you know, almost like becoming a U.S. citizen. Like, it's very serious. It takes a while. It's all these steps. And it's just, I think a lot of Jews aren't that big on people converting. And I do think something inside of me feels that, and I think, you know, I don't think the conversation between Jews and Blacks, especially in, like, America, is, like, that similar. But I think I sometimes try, when I hear something where I think maybe something's being exaggerated, or, like, someone's being too sensitive about something, I do kind of, like, put it in just because my experience is being Jewish, I kind of put it in that context, and, like, often I'm like, oh, no, that would bother me in terms of the context of being Jewish. Often, not always, but often.
Right.
So I think that is one thing, and I honestly think right now, let me try and think about this. Yeah, I think, I don't know if it's quite appropriating, but yeah, just that whole, I think being Jewish makes you really understand the whole concept of, like, yeah, people kind of, like, saying they really like, you know, your culture.
Right.
And, like, partaking in little things, but then, like, not really understanding, not really accepting it. And I'm like, for me, the biggest thing is definitely the whole War on Christmas thing. I can go on about this forever.
Right, okay.
So it's like right now, you know, the right wing has, like, this obsession with Jews, but it's like they're, I don't know, they're, like, kind of anti-Semitic because the War on Christmas thing is so crazy to me. I used to think...
The assumption is that everybody is Christian, for one.
The assumption's everyone's Christian. And just, I never think that because I'm
Right.
not Christian, you know? And I used to think the whole War on Christmas thing was that, people would be, so this is bad enough. I used to think, oh, Christians are upset that people are saying happy holidays. Which I'm like, that's ridiculous. I grew up with like, in like a half Christian, half Jewish neighborhood. So everyone said happy holidays. It wasn't like trying to be politically correct. It
Right.
really just felt so natural. Especially, you know, on Christmas Day, I would say Merry Christmas. But during
Right.
like the whole November, December, there's so many
It's a
holidays.
holiday,
Just say
right.
happy holidays. It's not even
Right.
Christmas yet. So, but now I actually realize like people just like, not only are they like upset by happy holidays, like they're upset with you like not saying Merry Christmas. Like, I don't know, it's like, it's just all so crazy to me. And like, are they upset? Yeah, I feel like I'm not saying this properly at all, and I'm like
No, I
annoyed
get it.
about it.
I get it. 'Cause I feel as if, in a way, so I'm gonna top us off a little bit here, but I feel like,
Focus my thoughts.
yeah, I feel like in a way, I think it is the notion that everybody is Christian,
Yeah.
and
It's strange to me.
it's very strange. Well, I think it's kind
But they're
of,
also like obsessed with Jews. They're like, Jews are good, and then they're like,
but also,
don't actually want anything not Christmas in their Christian, in December.
and okay, so this is also how Black people feel, right? With the idea of being so many people. I don't know if you remember the time that we went to, I mean, I know we've gone a number of times. We went to a Saints game this particular
Okay.
time. And this was, I think it was still during that previous administration.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, I'm looking at the people dancing,
Yeah.
right? And so they're probably, of course, they're playing like some rap song,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
And this was during the whole, you know, kneeling or, you know, whatever it
Yeah.
is for the anthem. And, you know, it's like if a player kneels, you see a lot of like, I'm going to say right-wing folk,
Yeah.
right? You know, boo, whatever.
It's crazy.
And then the rap music comes on and they're getting up and they are just having a ball
It's crazy.
watching
Yes.
these Black guys play
I
football,
know.
right?
I know.
And it's like,
That's, yeah.
it's
That's
almost,
it, and like obviously even more extreme, so.
but yes, like
I
that
know.
whole, like how do you
crazy.
justify this culture and everything about it I love, but you as a person dismissed.
Yeah.
Like how do you separate that? And I
Right.
feel like that's what that is. Jews are
Yes.
so pure.
Yeah.
Also, I don't care how you celebrate
Yeah.
holidays.
You as a person dismiss, and also
Yeah.
if your culture actually interrupts my culture at all, I'm very
Then screw you.
bothered by
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Then
it
you're
just blows my
dismissed.
mind because I did not grow up at all. And it's just when you live somewhere that's like, and that's what's like crazy. Like for me, I grew up somewhere like that was half Jewish, so I didn't really, except everyone said happy holidays. It was just like
Right.
so normal.
Yeah.
I just can't even like express how normal it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what, you know, obviously we could have a whole other talk about, you know, New Orleans, but for
Exactly.
you, New Orleans is like me, where I grew up in terms of it being, you know, half plus Black, and like there's still obviously all those issues. So, but yeah, the whole War on Christmas thing is like, it's crazy to me. Like they're just so
They're
spoiled.
obsessed.
They're obsessed and they're spoiled. Like you've had off for every one of your holidays your
Yeah.
whole life.
Yeah.
You know, no one's ever expected you to work on Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, actually, like, I got into, like, a debate on Reddit because someone said the same, like, everyone in America celebrates, it's not a Christian holiday, everyone in America celebrates Christmas. And I'm like, that is just not true.
Correct.
Like, I'm like, I do now because I married into a non-Jewish family, but I'm
Right.
like, I did not celebrate Christmas at all growing
Yeah.
up, at all, and it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you
I don't
know?
see like what's so misunderstood about that
I don't
at all.
understand. And I was like, do you know, and then when I was like a teenager and like in my young 20s, do you know how I celebrated Christmas? If I had a job, I took shifts on Christmas so everyone else can have their holiday off. 'Cause
Right.
I didn't. So I'm like, thank me.
Right.
Because if I had like a job at a yogurt shop, and if it was like around Christmas time, like, oh, I'll work.
Yeah.
Restaurant, I'll work. I don't celebrate that holiday. It's
Yeah.
no big deal.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know what's so hard.
But now it's just like, you know, you're damned for not
People-
doing it.
Yeah, and I'm like, you imagine you having to work on Christmas. Like, you probably wouldn't even think about it. And just so many, I don't know. It's just, It's just weird to me. It's weird to me, like you said, like how, you know, you see like people like getting into the rap music. It's weird to me with like right-wing love saying, oh, we love Jews, we love Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, but you actually
But at
like
the
freak
same
out
time,
of
yeah.
anything non-Christian like comes
Yeah.
into your world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's like my latest like
Yeah. It's
thing
very
that-
bizarre.
you know, we recently got through the holidays and
Yeah.
I just saw a lot of it this year. You know, tensions
very
were obviously
bizarre.
so high too
Mhm.
with politics during this holiday season, but I don't get it. I'm like,
I don't get why does it matter
yeah,
who celebrates what. That's what
Yeah.
I don't get. Like,
yeah,
where is the line for that anyway? To say
Right.
that this is a mandatory holiday,
right.
you know?
I think though the issue is they would say, oh, I don't. They would say, unless we're talking about like super like neo-Nazis, I think they would say, oh, I don't care. You can celebrate whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it comes down to it, and they actually
That happens.
And you know, I think they wouldn't even mind. Well, some would, but they wouldn't even mind if they saw like Christmas and Hanukkah decorations. Some might, some might not. But it's like if they saw only Hanukkah decorations, then they'd
Lose
mind.
their mind.
But you always only see Christmas decorations.
Correct.
That and America is not supposed to be a religious country, so
Correct.
that's what gets me. If it's like, yeah, if they
Not
saw
supposed to be, but, you know, we're God and country.
yeah,
You know?
If they walked into somewhere and they only had like a menorah and not a Christmas tree,
People
but
would
I'm like,
lose
you
their
see the
mind.
opposite of that every single second.
Correct.
So yeah,
It's almost like, you know, Jewish people don't even live in the country.
I
You know, it's
we have
just...
half the Jews live in America.
Mhm.
It's like half in Israel, half in America.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's just, it's insane. Especially, I don't even want to get on the whole war on Christmas thing. There, you know, there's a lot of folk on one of those networks
yeah.
that had a lot of issues, even with the idea of painting, like, you know, Santa Claus as a different color.
It's crazy.
Bizarre, like very, very bizarre how they do
I
that.
just can't believe they actually think there's a war on Christians and a war on Christmas. I just can't understand.
I'm confused on what is the war. Like,
I
what
don't
is,
know.
what's
You're
happening?
clearly winning it because there's Christmas trees every single where I
Mhm.
go all December,
Mhm.
so I don't know what you're talking about.
The war is that you can't say Merry Christmas. That's the war.
But people say Merry Christmas constantly.
All the time.
That's what
All
I'm
the
saying. So they're
time.
winning this war.
Correct.
It's not even a war because I will happily tell someone I know who celebrates Christmas Merry Christmas.
Correct.
So if there's a war, congratulations.
Correct.
You won it.
Correct. Like, I don't celebrate Hanukkah, but I can
Right.
still tell you Happy Hanukkah.
Right.
Like, I don't get what the issue is at all.
Right.
But yeah, it is this whole love you, love the culture,
Yeah.
but don't really like you that
Right.
much.
And I think something's so funny to me. Now I feel like if I know I'm around someone that's, you know, has more of that mindset, and if I say Happy Holidays, which to me is natural. It's for me, I didn't grow up saying Merry Christmas, so I have
Right.
to think about saying Merry Christmas, which is fine. If I say Happy Holidays, they, like, think I'm being, like, social justice or,
Correct.
like, trying to be overly politically correct.
Correct.
And I'm like, I'm just literally, that's,
This
like, the
is
natural
yeah.
thing for me to say. So
Yeah.
that's, like...
And you want to yell, like,
yeah,
I
like
don't
purposely
celebrate
try and
Christmas.
like say Merry Christmas to people,
Mhm.
some people like that, because I know they're going to think I'm being like overly politically correct for saying Happy Holidays,
And
even though it's what I just like
how-
naturally want to say.
Like, how annoying is that?
It
Like,
drives
how
me
ridiculous
crazy.
is that
It's
you would even
ridiculous.
have to do that?
I
you
know. I get very like sensitive to like making people happy, so I don't think this is like normal. That's,
Right.
Like, my own like psychosis, but I'm like, Grand Merry Christmas.
It's so ridiculous. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But I know we have a new first new second gentleman,
Yes.
who's also Jewish,
Yeah.
which I didn't even realize that.
He went to my
at
summer
first.
camp.
That's pretty cool.
I know. I like.
Was this like a,
It was like a Jewish sleepaway camp. I mean, he was
Okay.
there in like the early 70s. So
Right.
And, like, not that old.
right.
But yeah, like happened to still follow my summer camp as a kid on Instagram and saw they posted that.
That's pretty cool.
And most of the comments were like super positive, and obviously there's some
Yeah.
conservatives that are like, why would you? This is terrible. Oh my gosh.
Why would you post that
I
the
know.
guy married to
Literally,
the
like,
VP?
you know, most Jews are liberals, so it's like, what are you saying? Like most,
Right.
like, okay, so I'm assuming this person that commented that went to that sleepaway camp, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, most Jews are liberals, and so most people that went to that camp are.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway, keep going.
Yeah.
we can talk about VP and and her husband.
Yeah, I'm just, and I guess thinking about that, I wonder if people, like the connection, do Jews in a way, because I'm going to tell you, a lot of black people don't feel connected with, like, other people in ways of, like, struggle, right? Um, and I would say
But
that
they do with each other, correct?
they do with each
Okay,
other.
okay. So
And definitely think about, Jewish people and I mean, because this was literally like wiping out a whole race of people,
Yeah.
right?
he was almost successful. He was close. He was really close.
I mean, yeah.
It's wild, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Oh, and I would say podcasts too. Let me add that on ways that I've learned about some other things during that time.
Okay.
Like during the Holocaust and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was a story that really stuck with me. One day I'll maybe say it on our like part 2 of this.
Okay.
But I wonder how Jewish people feel. Do you feel as if there is some type of like connection in the struggle at all? Like do Jews feel like that, or is it just
with Black America, with other people, like
right,
minorities, or
right?
Yeah. So I think not really. I think there's I think I read like 75% of Jews are Democrats. So overall, we're pretty liberal. And then I think there's another segment that's very aware of like social justice. And I think they've made a lot of good inroads and connections.
Right.
I think there definitely needs to be a strong alliance between Black and Jewish America, which is great. But I do think, as a whole, I don't think those connections are that strong.
Right. Right.
Even though there's historical precedent for it, especially now. Not we, because we weren't alive, but there was a time in America when Jewish and Black people couldn't go to establishments, and they created like a lot of establishments that they can both go to.
Right.
So there is there's a history of it. I really had to do my own research. I didn't really learn much about that.
Yeah.
And I wish I learned more. I still want to learn more. And yeah, I wish we there were more efforts and their connection was there. And I'd say just, and I'm not going to talk about Black America, so you can more. Obviously, I do wish, I think there's such a lack of education in terms of history there and current struggles and stuff. But I do even think I don't feel that for the most sense. I don't feel that Jews are disadvantaged in America at all. So I don't want to say that. I do, and maybe I'm paranoid, maybe I'm an anxious Jew. I do feel that at any point in time, the other could turn on us. I think some people would say I'm being paranoid, but I say look at our history.
Right.
I mean, the Jews are some of the most persecuted people throughout history, and we're just in a current good time, and I'm hoping it will stay that way.
Okay.
So I do wish that some more people knew how brutal Jewish history is. Not just the Holocaust is the most recent, and as of now, hopefully the end. You know. But I mean, Jews were just kicked out and massacred everywhere, and not allowed to have jobs anywhere, and it was crazy all throughout the Holocaust. So and like you said, Hitler wiped out most of the Jews. So it's hard because I think we're pretty privileged now, but I just think, and we have the luxury of assimilating. So I think
that's what I was going to ask you. Is it because of the whole notion of being able to blend in?
I'm sure that's part of it. I mean, I think people that really care about Judaism sees that. I've read that, that's the biggest threat to Judaism. Everyone blends in. Everyone doesn't practice the customs anymore. No one has a menorah. No one knows, the Jewish prayers, even if you're secular. And then, you're safe, but Judaism's also gone. Right. So, what do you think about it?
Okay.
I mean, I guess you said you don't really see, or do you find, obviously there's also been news stories lately about anti-Semitism within the Black community. Is that something you've experienced at all, or?
I've not experienced that, like I said, Black people, especially now, I can say, are not as, probably similar to what you're saying is, anybody could turn on us at any given moment. it's kind of how black people feel too,
Yeah.
where you have an ally, but you almost like fear the ally because it's like when the time comes, right? Let's just say if somebody came in and very similar to, like almost the idea of the Holocaust, right?
Yeah.
Whereas black people can't blend in.
Yeah.
So you think when the time comes, and black people gotta go, and white people get to stay, right? Are you in these allies
Right.
who have gone through this?
Yeah.
Are they gonna say, "Oh no, I'm staying back with my fellow black person"? Or are they gonna be like, "Listen, we done been through this before. I'm not doing this. I can fit in, so I'm
I just
staying."
can't imagine being on like the wrong side of history because we've been through it before. But
Right.
I mean, I'm sure they're,
Yeah.
I know. I worry about like race wars and stuff in America.
Yeah.
But then also like it's also kind of like liberal versus conservative. So I don't know. I can't imagine like most like, very left wing white
Mhm.
people I know like
Mhm.
joining. Especially after we just saw how divided it was. Like,
Right.
I don't think anyone in my circle was ready to go join
Yeah.
the right wing. I mean, I totally understand if you.
Yeah, like if
you
you're
think
all
that
being
I would,
swept
if you think
up.
that I would, that's okay.
No. But I'm saying, like, if everybody's getting swept up,
Yeah.
right, and somebody is coming in saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna sweep out all of these people,"
Yeah.
who's black, who's Jew, type of thing. You can't imagine that a Jewish person is gonna be. I mean, you very well may, but this thought is,
anyone that just tried to blend in on the other side. That's so knowing our history. That's even worse.
right.
To me.
Right.
There's actually a book called What We Talk About When We Talk About Anne Frank. I think that's what it's called. I forget the author. Neil something. It's like a bunch of short stories, but the first one is What We Talk About When We Talk About Anne Frank. They're like, I think they're like little true like, vignettes from his life. And he talked about how him and his wife had a game where they'd always like they'd have people over, dinner parties or whatever. They were Jewish, but most of their friends were not Jewish. And whenever the house guests would leave, him and his wife would always like play a game like, oh, if the Holocaust happened, would those people,
Wow.
hide us in their attic or whatever?
Wow,
And they
yeah.
would like talk about that, like kind
Yeah.
of again, Jews like to joke a lot.
Yeah.
So like, but I'm like,
Interesting, but
like,
interesting.
Yeah, like important question that like would kind
Yeah.
of make them think like how close should they get to these people?
Yeah,
And I'm like,
very interesting.
Yeah, that's
One,
wild.
there was I can't remember the name of the podcast, but this particular story that they were talking about, the Holocaust, and they were talking about this lady who had saved like so many kids, and what she was doing, I don't remember like exact detail, but I remember her like, changing certain physical appearances of them, where she was dyeing their hair, and stuff like that. And I thought like, how wonderful and brave,
Yeah.
right? And at the same time, like this is what she had to do to
Yeah.
make sure that these kids lived,
Yeah.
So I don't know why, like that story and this idea of her having to like dye these kids' hair,
Yeah.
to make sure that they stay safe.
Yeah.
Just kind of always sticks with me. And so I do wonder, so going back to that is that, black people are always, willing to be like allies and then have allies of, people who understand suffering,
Yeah.
through those ways. But, always still kind of wary because you're
Yeah.
just like, it
Yeah.
is easy for you to assimilate,
For
than it
sure.
would be for us.
Yeah, and I think again, most Jews are Democrats. I think
Mhm.
most, are pro causes like Black Lives Matter. But I think many Jews don't live around Black people
Right.
at all.
Right.
So like, if we go back to kind of more of our original discussion, they really don't know many Black
Don't know-
people.
yeah.
So it's
Mhm.
kind of there's definitely a disconnect for sure.
Mm-hmm. So then there should be more like Black Jewish alliances.
I wish, yeah.
Then, yeah.
I wish.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, after Hurricane Katrina, I had gone to Dallas.
Yeah.
And I had gone, man, I was in like 5 different places in 2 weeks, like
This
trying
is a
to.
story I know, right?
This is a story you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to hear it again.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
So I'm in like 5 different places in 2 weeks, you know? And one of the reasons why I am always like less of like giving to charity people and more of like trying to help individually is because of what I had to go through to get help, you know, after that storm.
Yeah.
And but anyway, so many people, man. I mean, like so many organizations wouldn't help and you know whatever. And so I try to get this apartment, and FEMA was supposed to pay some money to help us, and I had not gotten anything yet. So I go to this apartment. I'm like, look, I need a place to stay. And the guy who owned it was a Jewish guy. Did not know this, but he was like, you know, you have no voucher, like you have no money, you have no nothing. And I was like, yeah, I need a place to go, you know. And so he said, look, you know, if this is what they're going to send you, then I would reduce, you know, like your rent by that amount of money.
Yeah.
So you can have a place to live. So then he gave me a phone number, and it was for the Jewish Community Center. And he was like, go here, and, you know, they'll help, because I didn't have anything. I couldn't furnish it, couldn't do anything. And so, you know, that's when he told me his story, and he was like, go here.
But you had your dog, right?
Not yet.
You didn't have your dog yet?
I didn't have him
Sorry,
yet. No.
Spoiler alert.
Yes, I did not have him yet. But he told me go there, and they're gonna help you. And I was like, sir, nobody has helped me. You know, like they're not gonna do it. And he was like, I promise you they're gonna do it. And I go there, and man, you know, like caught the bus, like figure out how to catch the bus, caught the bus, go there. And when I tell you, this is why my dog eats carrots to this day. They hooked me up. I still have like blankets from what I got, furniture. Man, these people like did not let me go. Like I went years. You know, I got like adopted. You know, our families would adopt you, and I got like adopted, and food.
Were they giving you carrots for you or for the dog?
They would give me carrots for me.
It's kind of like, were they giving you more than just carrots, or were they just like,
yeah, they would give me more than carrots.
I'm like, that's not gonna really sustain you.
Yeah, but at this point,
you don't eat vegetables.
Don't eat vegetables.
Christy just eats like hamburgers and French fries.
Yeah, I mean, I will eat spinach.
Okay.
And greens. I'll eat greens. Oh, and green beans.
Okay.
So there we go. 3.
Not carrots.
But so give me carrots for me, and then my dog, who I then had at that time, I would always like just be like, sorry guys, I don't eat these, and I'd be ready to toss them. But he got so curious, so I was like, you're not gonna eat them, buddy. Handed him one, and bing bam boom.
Y'all, Christy's dog loves carrots.
Obsessed. Like,
I've never seen anything like it.
Absolutely obsessed. Yeah. Like, I feel like if I went a day without giving him one, I'd be afraid if he woke up the next morning. I mean, he loves them that much. But anyway, all that to say that, and of course the story is deeper, but all that to say that I realized in that moment that he was so convinced that I get that other people have not helped you. But I know, like, this center is going to help you, you know.
That's cool.
It was very cool. Look, that was a long 2 weeks, okay? Yeah. That was a long 2 weeks with nowhere to go.
You said this was in Dallas? Or?
This was in Dallas,
okay.
Yeah. That's where because I had to jump from, like, city to city, you know. Anybody who would, like, take me in at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I was so tired, man. I was just like, I can't do, like, I need a place to stay, you know. So, so back to the idea of, like, Black-Jewish alliance. I think that there could be a lot of benefit in that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I hope to see more of it. Maybe, you know. Mm-hmm. I guess they don't live in the White House, right? They live in, like, a house.
Right. The vice president's house, Kamala, but still.
And Doug, right?
Yeah.
His name's Doug.
Doug, yeah. Like, he looks like a Doug, I think.
They should start some kind of, you know.
The Kamala Doug Foundation.
Yeah. Black Jewish Alliance.
I think they should.
Yeah, they should.
I mean, they're our highest, like,
I know.
you know, pair.
I know. I feel like it's funny because obviously, you know, Obama was the first black president, which was a huge deal. I don't know if we want to talk about that at all, but you know, there hasn't ever been
Right.
a Jewish president or vice president. And
Right.
I don't. It's just funny. It's like, or women, you know, woman president. I don't know. It's just interesting to me. And then, you know, obviously Bernie was Jewish, but that wasn't really a thing. That wasn't really part of like the rhetoric.
The idea
like,
of him being Jewish.
I mean, I think he's an atheist.
Yeah.
You know? I don't think he really cares about religion. He's, you know, born Jewish.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's weird that's never really been a thing. Even kind of talking about how Jews have, you know, more positions of power.
Right.
Really in government, though, more in like. Then we also had the Georgia Senate race.
The Georgia Senate race. That's very true. Yeah, I forgot we had another black Jewish pair, Ossoff and Warnock.
So.
Yeah, thank you, Georgia.
Yes.
I mean,
I was really excited.
That was huge.
I know, I was somehow kind of more excited for that.
Me too.
I mean, I was more anxious for the presidential race,
Me too.
don't get me wrong, but that was just like, that was cool.
That felt like the biggest accomplishment.
Yeah.
You know, the presidency, I felt like we could pull it off, you know.
Right. And it's almost pathetic if we don't.
If we couldn't, exactly.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Like,
you
come
know,
on. Like,
you're not like, oh, like, celebrating. Yeah. I mean, you are, but
Yeah.
because you're just like, thank you, we have sense, you know.
Yeah.
But Georgia was huge, and that one was, I was kind of sweating, but
I know.
also feeling like we gotta do, like, there's no way
I know.
we can't
I
do
think I
this.
probably thought it wasn't going to happen, so I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, another Black Jewish alliance.
So there's another
there as well.
Yeah. So there you go. There's
Yeah.
like we have you know
Yeah.
this alliance in high places now.
Yeah.
They should draw from that.
Yeah, my friend, you know, Jen, who I was friends with in high school,
Mhm.
she actually lives in Atlanta. Now, recently she had moved to Atlanta, and she
Mhm.
was like, I think she was involved, or just like very excited that
Nice.
that had happened.
Now, is this the girl from?
From high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
that's
don't want to
cool.
say which one, but
I feel like you can say Black Jen more than I can say Black
that was
Jen.
that Black Jen.
So that was cool for like to see that she was in Atlanta when all that. That must be like
That's
such a
real
cool
awesome.
feeling, especially if you were just like following Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
And all that. I've been following her a bit because my friend who's like very social justice-y. I remember when Biden, just like forgot his name. I'm like, who's our president? When Biden,
Right.
when we kind of knew he was going to be the nominee.
Uncle President.
I was like, oh, who do you want to be his his VP
Mhm.
pick? And she was like really big on Stacey Abrams.
So was I.
Yeah, and I only knew a bit about her, but I like after my friend told me like, oh, I would love for her to be Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
I kind of like read more. You know, I knew she was close to becoming the governor.
Yeah. I mean, that was
Yes.
truly like
Yeah,
the stolen
So I was
race.
like, oh yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, she was honestly my first,
Yeah, that's cool.
you know, hope for a VP pick.
Yeah.
You know, obviously totally fine with Kamala, but you know,
Yeah.
it at the thought of choice.
Yeah, it's
I
so funny to
loved
see like the
her.
right like be like Kamala's like a communist. I was like everyone I know that's like very left like did
Mhm.
not like her because she's like too
So they feel
moderate.
as if she exactly,
Yeah. So I'm like,
and the
where are
right
you-
is
I mean,
just
I was like, where are you getting? I'm like, she's literally like a, you know, it's like a prosecutor.
Yeah.
Like, where are you getting? She's
and that's
communist. Like,
where the left really a lot of
Yeah.
people on the left don't really like her for that
Yeah,
reason. You know.
She's cute. She's cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, like, Doug's daughter. She's funny. Check her out on Instagram.
Yeah, right? I forgot. What's her name again? I forgot.
I don't know. I don't know her name, but
I did not realize
she's
she
a
was that young.
character. She's young, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just funny after seeing, like, all the, you know, Trump children.
She's a true breath of
She's
fresh air.
very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that they are so, though, I don't want to say basic, because
Yeah.
you know, but relatable in that way. Like,
yeah.
even
I
the
mean,
daughter.
obviously,
you
they're,
know?
like, wealthy people, so it's like...
Yeah. So they
Yeah, I think we
always
just got
have
used
a
to
gap.
such...
Extreme.
It's such extreme that
Yeah.
I'm like, I agree. I'm like, oh, she's so cute in her little, like, knit outfit and, like, her, like, unshaven armpits. I know how you feel about that.
Mhm.
But I'm like, oh, yeah, they're still, like, wealthy, like, but, you know.
Yeah.
It's, after what we
Yeah.
went through, it's refreshing.
You
I
take
guess.
it. You take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always think like, and I know this is slightly off topic, but the idea of like, them being wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like where's the cutoff line? Like, let's just say if, we somehow had $2 million like drop in our laps, right?
Yeah.
Would it all of a sudden have people on the other side be like, whatever, those two got millions, so,
Maybe.
But then where's the
I know.
change,
This is a long conversation.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do
it really
think
is.
about it. I do think about it too.
Yeah,
I do think about it too.
yeah.
We can have a conversation where we talk about
we will get into
how
that.
we feel about rich people. Are we rich people? Are we poor people? How we feel about poor
How
people.
do we feel? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And can
Everyone
they be
become
grounded?
evil when they become rich.
Yeah. Because there's, man, the eat the rich is
I know.
like so ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous.
Oh,
but
I think we'd actually kind of agree.
yeah.
A lot of my friends would not agree with me.
Yeah, there's
My
a
friend,
lot
actually,
of,
I think most of my friends are like hardcore, like far
yeah,
left wing.
yeah. But then I
Your
always
circle
think,
might
so,
not be like that.
no, my circle is definitely, my circle is like, listen, if I can make it, we're going to
Right.
make it.
I think I need to,
Yeah,
go
well,
over there a bit because
yeah, because I think,
saw my friends like, guys, like I just don't hate rich people that much, and they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I get a lot of rich people are assholes, but I'm like, I just don't inherently hate someone that much because they're rich.
they have money,
And that's
right?
it.
Yeah,
They're like, we
okay.
don't get what you're, we
Yeah.
don't speak your language.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay.
but then again, I think if you got if they got like a ton of money somehow,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? Throw it away because you're like, I never want to be rich. Like that's
Maybe.
where
It's
that's
a whole
so
other
crazy.
conversation.
That's yeah.
No, I know. It's,
Yeah.
I do think I've been around that mindset so much. I haven't changed my mind, but more and more I get what they're talking about. I can see their point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't really agree.
I'm definitely not a eat the rich person.
No. I'm not either. I'd say more and more I understand that a lot of people do make their money in unethical ways.
That I get. Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of it stems from.
Yeah. So my biggest thing was the idea of an alliance and the
Okay.
idea of a friend of another culture, and is that important to understanding?
Right.
But then I feel like that can be tied into so many things, and that's where that
Yeah, I
came
mean, I still
from.
think we could force so if we're talking about the people that are like the most ignorant, like you have to go find a black friend, like
Right.
it's not really
See,
gonna work.
so the tie-in, can we live in this culture with other people through our own cultures and
Right.
remain 6 feet apart?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, and this sounds so cliche, but there are people that just still don't get it, if someone black is saying that something is racist, even if it's not in person, if you just read it online, or if someone Jewish is telling you something's anti-Semitic, like, just be like, okay.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Instead of trying to figure out any reason why it's not racist or not anti-Semitic. And I don't want to speak for you, but
That's really good.
thank you.
Mhm.
How I also feel is I think if someone says something you do or a part of is racist or anti-Semitic,
Mhm.
we're not saying that's the worst thing ever.
Right.
Or like we're not saying you're evil.
You're now just this terrible person.
Yeah.
It's just yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that just once you accept that,
Mhm.
once you accept, I've definitely done racist things and probably have done anti-Semitic things,
Mhm.
and they can be pointed out, and I can try and not do them, or even if I do it again, like it's, not the worst thing, but like,
Right.
and the worst is just, to me, just being like, making fun of people saying it's racist or saying it's not racist, not anti-Semitic, and it's just so, doesn't help the situation.
Right.
I don't get why you feel the need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, too, agreeing with that, I think there is a way that we don't have to necessarily have a friend, obviously, of every culture.
Yeah.
We won't.
Right.
So in that, yeah, there is a way to stay 6 feet apart, so to speak, and still understand in ways of just saying, okay.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like you said, not having to explain back to somebody who's telling you, who's
Yeah.
in that culture,
It's
why
crazy to
that's
me.
an issue.
I can even tell you something's anti-Semitic, and you could think that that's ridiculous or
Mhm.
silly that that's anti-Semitic,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't matter because I'm just telling you that Jews will find that offensive, and
Correct.
that just is what it is.
Correct.
So if you don't want to offend people, if you don't want to say something hurtful,
Correct.
don't say that. Don't, you know?
Correct.
If you want to think in your head like, oh, that's maybe one day you'll learn why that's offensive to them. But
Right.
at least understand it is because I'm
Right.
telling you it is.
Right.
You know?
Like, period.
It's simple.
Mhm.
Start there. Start there.
That's a good one.
Okay.
That's a good one. So we can wrap it up there
Okay.
with that's where we start.
Awesome.
If we say it, we say okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is that simple.
Cool.
So you don't need to walk in 3 feet. Just
Yeah.
start there.